I'm Michael Bussee. I'm one of the original co-founders of Exodus International. I left the program in 1979 and have since reconciled my spirituality and my sexuality. Now I'm a vocal critic of reparative therapy programs and of Exodus International. As I said, I read early on when I was first looking into this whole issue, way before Exodus, that if you were truly gay, you couldn't fall in love with a woman. You couldn't have a satisfactory relationship with a woman. And I met my fiancée actually met her for the first time in junior high, and then got to know her better through high school, and she was actually dating my best friend at the time, and I was kind of jealous. I didn't know if I wanted to date her or him. But they eventually broke up, and I got to know her better, and I found myself really drawn toward her and surprised that I could have romantic feelings toward her. But I didn't want to enter into a marriage until I was sure that I could be a heterosexual husband to her. So I kept postponing it. I kept postponing the wedding, hoping that I would feel some sort of strong sexual attraction. And I would tell her, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. Well, we were encouraged by people at the church that perhaps getting married was that final step, that maybe I was holding back the change by not giving myself wholeheartedly to her, that if we made the vows and truly gave our lives together to God, that might be the breakthrough, and that I might finally receive the heterosexual gift. So we were actually given that advice, that we should marry. I realize now it was irresponsible advice, and some people are still given that advice, that they really need to settle down, and eventually God will reward their vows by creating heterosexuality within them. That does so much collateral damage. I've talked to so many spouses who felt like failures themselves because their husband or their wife didn't change. There was something wrong with their faith too.
When you were still a leader, did you pass that advice on to your clients?
No. I never encouraged clients to get married. In private, I would always discourage it. And they would say, but you're married, you've got a child, you're doing well. And I couldn't tell them the full extent of the struggle that was still going on inside. And I said, well, yes, but that's my situation. I wouldn't advise it for you. Unless you're absolutely sure, don't do it. Unless you're absolutely sure that you can be everything that your spouse needs you to be, don't do it. So, no, I'm glad to say I didn't do that. I didn't encourage people to get married. I think that my example of being married may have communicated that message, that that's what they should do. But I never preached that that's what they should do. Does that make sense?
You guys never ran your wedding photo in, Exodus advertisements saying
never.
You can be married to one day?
Never. Would always tell that story. When Jim and I would go out to give our testimonies, Jim was single and I was married, I always got the biggest applause, because that's what the audiences wanted to hear. The church audiences wanted to hear that God could change you and you could get married and have kids and live happily ever after. And I couldn't really tell them how difficult it was to be married and to know that you weren't everything that she needed you to be. No, never ran the picture. I think that's kind of cheap. Even now when I see it in Exodus advertising, or it kind of turns my stomach. It seems exploitive to me. If people knew what those marriages were really like inside, I don't know what to say about that. It bothers me. me to see John Polk on the cover of Newsweek with his wife, and then a few years later seeing him running from a gay bar in shame, to hear Alan Chambers talk about his marriage and yet admitting that it took 9 months or so to even consummate the marriage, and that he has to daily deny what comes naturally for him. You only need to talk to the spouses of gay men, ex-gay men, to realize the harm, the collateral damage. It devastated my wife. It devastated Gary's wife when we came out and admitted that we weren't really ex-gay. Devastated my family. Devastated my daughter. My daughter was actually told by members of her church, this is when she was really little, 4 or 5 years old. She was told that if your daddy loved Jesus enough and loved you enough, he wouldn't be gay. That collateral damage is minimized. They like to paint this happily ever after picture, but they don't say what happens when those marriages fall apart, when the masquerade is over.